My name is Aidan, and our question is: does wearing a certain football team's jersey influence the public's perception of them in terms of how good they are? So, first, a quick overview before we get into it. We're first going to talk about our hypothesis and what we thought was going to happen before moving into the experiment. Next, we're going to talk about the data collection and the steps we took to collect our data. And then we're going to represent that data in a graph like form. And finally, we're going to talk about the conclusion and our thoughts about the experiment in total. So, first, the hypothesis. So we believed that due to the interviewer wearing a Buffalo Bills jersey, this would cause people to vote for the Buffalo Bills more due to the influence of the jersey. So this topic is relevant to us because we enjoy watching football, and also wearing jerseys is a popular trend in school, so we were interested to see if it impacts how other people view the team.
Okay, moving on to data collection. So for our sampling, we decided to go with a cluster sampling. So instead of interviewing the entire DV student population, we decided it would be much more practical to make clusters, which we defined as fourth period classes. Okay, on to experimental procedure. So as previously mentioned, there were two treatments. These treatments were one, Bills jersey treatment, in which a surveyor wore a Buffalo Bills jersey and stood at the front of the classroom for the duration of the survey. On this jersey, the word Bills was clearly labeled at the top. Our second treatment was just normal clothing, in which the surveyor wore casual clothing without sports logos or references that might have influenced responses. And for both of these treatments, we had a procedure for data collection, in which the surveyor entered classrooms with assigned treatment and presented a QR code, which led to an anonymous Google form. This Google form had two questions on it. One was, do you watch NFL games? And two asked respondents to choose which team they thought would win the 2024 Super Bowl out of 32 possible selections.
I'm Shreyansh, and now we're going to talk about our graphs and results. So we use pie charts to provide us with a visual representation of data for each treatment that will allow us to see if the Bills jersey treatment affected the overall perception of the team. And from here, we can see that 0% of the students surveyed thought the Bills would win the Super Bowl when the interviewer wore normal clothing. And that number increased to 13% of students voting for the Bills when the interviewer wore the Bills jersey. A common trend between both treatments was that the majority of the non Bills votes went to the Kansas City Chiefs or the San Francisco 49ers. We also used a vertical stacked bar graph to not only tell us whether the Bills jersey treatment was effective, but also whether or not the students had already watched NFL and how that might have affected their results. So for the normal clothing, 0% of those who have already watched the NFL said the Bills would win the Super Bowl, and the same happened for those who had never watched. And as for the Bills jersey treatment, 7.7% of those who have already watched the NFL voted for the Bills, and that number nearly doubled to 15.1% for the new watchers.
Now, to wrap everything up, we have our reflection and conclusion. So, to address our question of interest, according to our data, we concluded that indeed wearing a Bills jersey resulted in more students voting for the Bills to win the Super Bowl. We observed a larger impact on students who don't watch football compared to those who watch it regularly. We also noted various factors that may have impacted our results. First, the popularity rise of Travis Kelce's and Taylor Swift's relationship, which caused the Chiefs to become a favorite among the teenage demographic. Second is the fact that the practice SATs took place during data collection. This shrunk our pool of available students and led to more variability in results. And finally, the fact that the 49ers are a home team for the Bay Area, which would naturally influence local students to have a bias in favor of this team. Okay, and finally, on to possible inferences. First, we inferred that the results of the study could be generalized to the general population of DVHS. Our study also suggested a correlation between wearing the Bills jersey and the belief that the Bills would win the Super Bowl.
Something we could have improved on was the specificity of our questions. So instead of just asking who's going to win the Super Bowl, we could have asked who's the best QB in the league. And that would either force people to pick someone they know or look towards the person who's wearing the jersey and see the name on the back and choose them. it's a much more specific question, and that would mean people don't just have to identify a logo, they would actually have to know a player too. So that might influence people to choose the name on the jersey rather than just a random team. Something we learned was that a jersey can affect other people's opinions on your team, especially for new watchers who may have never heard of the NFL or seen their teams or players. But if they have, then they're much more likely to pick their own team based on social media popularity or if it's a home team.
That concludes our presentation. Thank you for listening.